Okay, welcome. Drink with James, episode 113. Let's address the elephant in the room today. I look fucking great today, obviously. I am really feeling my whole look. I know a lot of you are thinking that's a lot of patterns to be mixing, and it is not. This look is not something for amateurs to try and recreate. This is for professionals only, and I feel like, listen, when you're feeling yourself, it is important to tell the world how great you are, and I don't think we talk about enough how great I am. You guys often say you love the show, you enjoy the insights, but not enough about how much you love me and how great I am and how good looking I am. So feel free to pontificate on any of those subjects in the comments. This is in the menswear crowd called a jerk collar because it's usually worn by assholes. So it literally is called a jerk collar. I don't think that's the actual traditional name, but that is the kind of more low-key nomenclature for it. So jerk collar with a pin, with a pin collar. So it's got like this thing actually unscrews. This was like very 1920s, I think, or before that. The collars used to come in a lot closer, and they would always have this bar under it, kind of pushing the tie up. This is by Hackett. This is Drake's, which is like all I'm wearing recently, and an old pinstripe suit from J. Lindbergh. But yeah, I woke up and said I want to look like an 80s banker, and I feel like I nailed it. So, another thing, when this comes out, you will have about a week until conference tickets get more expensive. So if you haven't bought one, buy one. Again, we are offering it in monthly payments, so if you don't want to pay it all up front, you can do that. New York City, what's the date?
Friday, October 12th.
Friday, October 12th. We moved it. We usually do it on Wednesdays. We do it on Friday this time because we get a lot of out-of-towners. We thought that you could kind of kick the weekend off with that. Speakers are filling up. Should be amazing. A crowd favorite, Erica Behrman, is coming back and speaking at this one. That was a big favorite of the first conference that we did. She was Oscar PR girl. Amazing insights. She's going to be there. We've got a menswear panel, which we've never done before. We are working on a YouTube panel, so there's a lot of good stuff. We'll be adding speakers over the coming weeks, but get your tickets now. You trust us. You watch this show. You know it's going to be great. And if nothing else, it's probably worth $300 just to pay to meet me and see me speak. So I don't really see what else you could need. Maybe I'll just do the whole thing. Okay, so question number one is, for brands you've worked with in the past for free, how can you transition to getting paid? This is something that comes up even in our relationships with our clients, where they say, okay, we want to work with 50 influencers for this campaign. These 10 influencers that we want to work with, we already have a relationship with, and we don't pay them, or we pay them a reduced fee. So can we honor the pre-existing relationship that we have with that influencer? It is hard to transition something from free to paid. Once you give something away for free, it can be difficult to move that to paid. We've talked a lot before about, being strategic in the free work that you do for brands to leverage that into paid work with other brands, and that is certainly a good strategy. If you're working with a brand and let's say you've worked with them for a year and you've always worked with them for free, I think that you could be I think in most cases, just pure honesty is the best way to go. And so I think if you wrote that brand and you said, hey, I really love working with you all. I really appreciate the support that you've given me and the fact that you were there before other brands were. As you know, my account has more than doubled over the last year, and that means that my ability to make money off this has grown quite a bit. And so those posts that I'm giving away have become quite a bit more valuable. I'm also, trying to support myself and do this full time as a job, and it's getting harder and harder to do that if I'm not getting paid for the posts that I do. Now, I know that we have an existing relationship. I know that that relationship is based on working for product. I would love to know if there's a way for me to transition that into making money off of this. I want to be fair to you. I want to be fair to the support that you've given me over the last year or so, but I also need to start prioritizing partnerships with brands that are paying me. Would love to talk about this on the phone or meet up in person, whatever it might be. Let me know if you're free. If you're very honest there, that laying something out like that, what are they going to say? They can say, no, there's no budget, or we can talk about paying you. You've made it very clear that what you want to, I think, get across is like, one, thank you for supporting me. Thank you for the last year of partnerships. While it's easy to be like, oh, I did them this big favor, and in some ways you did, right? You gave them free posts, but that was an agreement that y'all entered into. You felt good about it, brand felt good about it. So I think always nice to start with gratitude. Gratitude. Gratitude will get you a long way. To just say thank you, I appreciate it. As you know, things have changed, and then you speak to them about facts that nobody can deny. I was here, now I'm here. Okay, so I was at 20K, now I'm at 100K. And again, I so appreciate you working with me when I was at 20,000 followers. Nobody else would. That's something I won't forget. Now I'm at 100,000 followers. And, my situation is different. And thus, I'm wondering if we can change this relationship as well. Another thing is I wouldn't necessarily jump them up to the same price that you are charging new brands that are coming in for the first time. Reward their loyalty with a little bit lower price. First, you could just say, I really would like to try and move this into a paid relationship. Can we talk about the feasibility of that? And it's a conversation. You have a relationship. What you absolutely cannot do, the worst thing you can do is email and say, hey, thanks so much for reaching out about your new line. It looks great. I now don't work for free. Thank you. Absolutely fucking worst thing you can do. You need to reframe. So if that brand reached out to you and says, hey, let's say you've worked with them for 5 times for free and they reach out the 6th time. Hey, I want to send you something. What's your size? How you doing? Your trip to Positano looked great. That's when you need to reframe that conversation. Say, oh my gosh, this looks amazing, blah, 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 blah. Explain yourself. Gratitude, explanation, ask. Okay? Thank you so much. Here's the new situation we're in. Can we talk about changing our relationship? Don't just say, oh, I don't work for free anymore. I had an influencer recently who I'm very good friends with, turned down speaking at the conference because they just needed to make money, and they did it in a way that was super gracious, 100% made sense, and she was just like, listen, I am so taxed with all of the requests coming in and all of the work that I'm doing that I love you, you know that, I can't work for free. And I hope you understand that, and if you had any budget, I would be there. And I 100% understood and was like, totally hear you, I don't have budget now, so I'm not, you've explained yourself, I understand it, you've explained it in a way that makes sense, you've expressed gratitude, we're totally good. Just be a normal human, be kind, and don't throw it back in people's face. But I do think you can transition that relationship, but it starts with you being candid and honest. When do you have that conversation? You have that conversation when it doesn't feel fun anymore to be working for the brand for free. When you feel like, oh, this isn't worth my time, or this doesn't feel right, or I don't feel like this is a balanced relationship anymore. That is when you have the conversation. It is totally fine to continue to work for brands for free in perpetuity. If you love that brand and they don't have budget, which most luxury brands don't, and you want to work for them or keep working with them, keep working with them. There is no problem in that. And I think that, honestly, I went through again the other day and I was doing some calculations and more and more I'm seeing 50%, 50% of the feed sponsored. That is way too much. You cannot have 50% of your fucking feed sponsored. Imagine if you watched a 30-minute show and it was 15 minutes of commercials. There's no fucking way you'd get through it. No way. Or, more apt, imagine a show that was 8 episodes long and 4 of them were sponsored by a brand and about a brand. Would you watch that season? No. No fucking way you would. Like, it's too much. Question number 2 is the hashtag dead? I don't think it's dead. I think it's not as useful as it was before. I'm speaking from personal experience here. I don't click on a lot of hashtags in Instagram, but I'm not sure if that is the behavior of a normal, of like a more normal Instagram user. I think when people are on Instagram, they want to go through their feed, and if they want to expand their feed, they're probably going to explore. They're probably not clicking on a hashtag. I think hashtags are helpful in, event coverage. Veuve Clicquot, obviously, during one of their polo matches, I think people do sometimes go to that hashtag. So I think that in kind of certain situations, it can be helpful. I think if you are attending an event, if you are part of some cultural thing that you feel like people would want more information about, I think hashtags can work. If you have a niche thing that you're covering, I think hashtags can work. Think about things that people are really passionate about. And if they said, I'm hungry for more influencers talking about natural hairstyles and how to care for and style natural hair, the hashtags surrounding that world, I think, would drive a lot of interest because there's so much passion and there's such a thirst for knowledge in that specific space. Whereas hashtag style, hashtag OOTD, I don't think that is doing anything anymore. So if you're using a hashtag, I would have it, around a thing that people are really passionate about and are searching for more information on. Hashtags used to be, again, a place for you to, they were just like the way the internet organized itself. I think they've been abused to a point now where the more mass ones aren't helpful. I don't think the like ... 35 hashtags is really helpful and is doing anything, because chances are those hashtags don't have a lot to do with what you're posting about. So I think it's a case of overuse that leads to a diminishment in value. So I think when they were less used, they were really valuable. And now that they're used a lot, they're just not super valuable. So if you're going to use it, try and make it more niche. What's the organizational backbone of the internet now? I mean, I think Instagram's Explore page isn't really, I don't think it's really based on, I actually don't know how they build it. I don't think it's based on hashtags. Like, I see a lot of influencer content because I follow a lot of influencers, but I see a lot of cycling content as well because I follow a lot of cyclists, but I don't think the cyclists I follow are self-identifying as cyclists. I bet Instagram is looking at tagged brands and things like that to figure out, oh, you follow cyclists, I'm going to serve you more cycling content. So I think the brands that you tag, the things that you talk about, the way that you talk about them, Instagram is probably using those more for Explore than they are hashtags. I mean, my like ending point with hashtags is I do know Instagram is pushing them. You can follow hashtags now. It is something that they, I think, would like to make a bigger thing. So, jumping on a well-followed hashtag may not be a bad idea. I don't have a huge amount of experience in this, so if you do, jump in the comments and let us know. I think it's not a huge driver of attention anymore. I'm able to capture a local audience. How can I reach a larger audience? Good, interesting question. One we haven't had before. We've talked about going from like a different country and coming to America and trying to grow an American audience. But let's say you are known as a Nashville influencer. How do you get beyond that? I think the temptation would be to try and look like you're not from that city. You know, I think the temptation would be to try and copy what the big influencers are doing and make your feed look like everyone else. I personally don't love that as a solution to the problem of gaining a larger following outside of your local city. I think, you do need to create content that makes sense for people that don't live there. So if, let's say, you're a food influencer and all you do is talk about Nashville food, okay, yeah, it is going to be difficult for you to probably grow an audience outside of that, or outside of people who are just love Nashville and want to hear about Nashville food. If you're a style influencer, I would think that being in Nashville is something that you could use to your advantage, because increasingly feeds are just Positano, New York, and LA right now. Being from a different place I think could give you a leg up as far as visually, because people aren't used to it. So show the things about your city that make it interesting. Try and, I think, putting together, on your highlights, like travel guides to that city. If you live in a place that has tourism, I think, helping people coming to the city know how to navigate it is a nice, easy in for people who aren't kind of in the space. Being known as someone that's like, oh, if you go to Nashville, you got to follow this person. So I'm saying, I think one strategy is double down on that you're from a different place. Double down on that. Use the fact that you're not from LA or New York to your advantage. Now, the other side of that coin is, if you look at Happily Grey, if you look at Fashion Chic Styling, if you look at Fashion Jackson, in order, they are in Nashville, San Diego, and Dallas. All of their photos look like they're in New York City. Every single day, their photos look like they're in New York. They shoot in the cities, they shoot against brick buildings, they are indistinguishable from New York. They make it look like they're in a big city. They're not. That works really well for them. I think that you can totally not take my advice as well and try and make your content look like it could be in any city. And I guess I'll walk back on that statement a bit and say, those influencers don't try and make it look like they're in New York. They just make it look like they're generically in a city. And those influencers, Happily Grey is more of a lifestyle influencer now, but certainly Fashion Jackson and Fashion Chic Styling are just style influencers. They post outfits every day, that's all they do. So the background doesn't really matter. What matters is their style. So I think it just is also about, why do people care about you? You're able to build a following in a local market. Why? And what is the reason people are following you, and how do you scale that out to the entire country? If you can't, if you're just known as a local influencer, that's not so bad. You can just be the biggest influencer in your area. And as influencer programs start to spread out and as brands look to work across the country, if you are in Omaha, Nebraska, and you are the Omaha, Nebraska influencer, you'll still get a lot of work, because again, as brands scale this stuff out nationwide, they'll be looking for the best of the best of Omaha. And if you're known as that, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Now, are you going to get the New York City deals? Are you going to go on all the big influencer trips? Maybe not as much, but you can definitely build a nice career and income off of being the best in your local area. We done?
Yeah.
I feel like we're done. Okay. Hey, thank you. Right now, as you watch this, I am most likely having an Aperol Spritz in the arid desert heat of Puglia. But I'm thinking of you. Cheers.